Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Double X from the KPRZ studios high atop La Jolla, California here on Tuesday, the 13th of March. Sitting in for Pastor Sanders this evening, who deserves our prayers and good wishes as he's a little bit under the weather tonight. I want to begin the broadcast this evening with a few lines of scripture from Colossians chapter 1. And it begins, "For this cause we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you, and to desire that ye might be filled with the knowledge of his will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that ye may walk worthy of the Lord unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God, strengthened with all might, according to his glorious power, unto all patience and long-suffering with joyfulness, giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness, and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist." Well, ladies and gentlemen, if we now move on to the political season that is upon us here now, with the midterm election approaching here in November and the primary season in advance of that, it's our distinct pleasure here on What's Right, What's Left to welcome to the broadcast the leading candidate for the office of governor of the state of California, Mr. Travis Allen, who currently serves as the 72nd District Assemblyman in California, 72nd District in Huntington Beach, California, and has been doing so since 2012. Before joining the Assembly, Travis owned a small business helping people as a financial planner, and Representative Allen holds a bachelor's degree in economics from Cal State Long Beach and has also studied at Cal State Los Angeles. And Travis is a longtime resident of Huntington Beach, where he has lived and surfed for almost 20 years. Travis has a lifelong history of giving back to his community. He has given his time and resources to many charitable and community causes, most noteworthy helping the homeless of Orange County and the Orange County Rescue Mission. In addition, Travis is active in the Christian and Jewish communities and is a strong supporter of a number of pro-Israel charities. And again, it's our distinct pleasure to offer our welcome to Travis this evening as he joins us to chat about the race here in California for that key office, the office of governor of the People's Republic of California.
Thank you so very much. It's great to be on.
Glad to have you, Travis. And we've spent a wonderful day visiting with Travis and engaging in some Second Amendment culture, and also attending Travis's debate today with his Republican challenger, John Cox, which was a very lively discussion in Poway, California, at the Jewish temple there. But Travis, as we think about pushing forward here through this primary and on into the general election season, what do you see as the mileposts that need to pass in order for us to recapture the state of California on our way to restoring a limited government constitutional republic in our country under God?
So it's very simple. I mean, for decades now, California's gone in the wrong direction. I was born here. I was raised here. I was born down in San Diego, California, raised about 5 minutes from the border in a little town called Chula Vista. Unfortunately, I've had to watch as my parents have left the state, my brothers left the state. My best friend now lives in Texas, where he doubled the size of his house, doubled the size of his business, and now pays no state income tax. So, starting in 2012, I thought, look, I'm an investment advisor. I started managing money in '96, opened up my company in 2001. Actually, I still work every single day. So I still work full-time because I don't believe in career politicians. I'm actually one of the big advocates for a part-time legislature in California. I think,
good for you.
Yeah, politicians should be forced to live and work in the real world underneath all these crazy laws they're putting out.
Right.
But the problem in California, the reason that my family, friends, and clients have left is because for 39 of the last 40 years, the California Democrats have controlled both houses of the state legislature. And they've simply run the state into the ground. Our current governor is a guy by the name of Jerry Brown. And you might have heard his name before. Jerry Brown, this is his actual fourth term in office. So this is his fourth time around. And he and his father actually have been running California now for 24 of the last 50 years. So if you've seen some crazy laws come out of California, it's because the corrosive influence of the California Democrat Party has taken the state so far left, where we now have among the nation's highest tax. We have the highest income tax, the highest the highest income tax, highest sales tax, among the highest gas taxes, which was just raised recently, and also the highest corporate tax west of the Mississippi. And it's all of these taxes, in tandem with the soft on crime laws, the illegal sanctuary state, and the list goes on and on. But this has taken what used to be the greatest state in the nation and really created the mess that is California today, where we have the nation's highest homeless rate, the nation's highest poverty, with 1 in 5 Californians living below the poverty line, crime that is out of control and rose by 15.4% over the last 3 years alone. Mm-hmm. And, this is why I got elected in 2012. And I said, look, I love this state. I'm actually in the Guinness Book of World Records. I've set surfing records in Huntington Beach, California, where I live, Surf City. It was on the largest surfboard ever created and the most number of surfers. We had 66 guys and gals on one board.
That's hilarious.
It was great, and I love the state, but it's gone in the wrong direction. So in 2012, I got elected, and I've been fighting every year since then. But I realized that in the California state legislature, it is still dominated by the Democrats, and there's really no way to change the state there. The only way we're going to change the state is by taking the entire state back, and it has to start with the very top office, the office of governor. And you ask, what are the mileposts that we're going to look at? How do we gauge our success? Well, number one, our success started in November of 2016 with the election of Donald J. Trump.
Absolutely.
I am actually the only person in the entire governor's race in California that openly supported, voted for, and even wrote op-eds in favor of the Republican nominee for President, Donald Trump.
So you could see from the beginning there that was the trajectory to returning our country to liberty. And
without a doubt. And, look, I was very supportive of a number of the Republican candidates, but when it came down to Donald versus Hillary, it was truly a choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong, of a constitutional republic, a nation that's founded upon laws and based upon laws, and, something that looks much more like socialist Europe. So it was a very easy decision, but I'll tell you, that was the first step. Is when we took the country in November of 2016, everyone in the country, as well as in California, all of a sudden believed that now this might be possible in California.
Absolutely.
In the last 12 months, we've seen the largest tax cut that the United States has done in decades.
Right.
And $8 trillion of new wealth has been created across the country, where we have the lowest unemployment now in decades. Trillions of dollars are coming into the country. Apple's moving in $358 billion, creating over 30,000 jobs. Home Depot is giving out these huge bonuses of $1,000 to every employee. Mm-hmm. And my thought was very simple. Why should this have to stop at the Rockies? Why can't this come to California?
Right.
And that's when I decided that I was going to run to be the next governor of California. So the very first milestone is we have an election coming up on June 5th. Absentees start going out in the middle of May. Mm-hmm. And we have to get into the top two, because California is what's called a jungle primary. So it is not one Republican and one Democrat. It's the top two vote getters that advance through the primary into the November general election. So the first milepost is very simple. Win in June so we can win in November and truly turn the state around. And I will tell you right now, I have 39,000 volunteers across the state. I am the Republican frontrunner according to every single major poll. I have the largest social media presence, and you can find out all about me. It's online at Join Travis Allen. If you're on social media, go to Facebook. I'm at Join Travis Allen there as well. And you can see all of the activism and activity and see the videos and all the commentary about everything that's wrong in California and exactly what we're going to fix. But I have a sincere conviction that the silent supermajority in California has been forgotten for decades now by the Sacramento politicians that are truly based out of the Bay Area of San Francisco.
Sure.
This is Jerry Brown, Gavin Newsom, Boxer, Feinstein, Pelosi, Harris, all of them, all based out of San Francisco, running our state into the ground. It is time that the people of California wake up and say, enough is enough. We are going to take our state back. And with Donald Trump's win in 2016, this is now possible in California. And I will tell you right now, I will be your next governor of the state of California. It's going to usher in the best 8 years we've ever had in the state. And we, my friend, are going to take this state back.
Absolutely, Travis. Well said. Now, many of the things that you're describing resonate exactly with what Pastor Sanders' ministry talks about day in and day out with this broadcast for some 46 years. effectively, our country fell under the influence of cultural Marxists commencing in the 1930s. The Frankfurt School in Germany at Frankfurt University was established. It was known as the Institute of Social Research. And then in 1933, when the Socialist Party took over in Germany, these Marxists who had been trained at the Marx-Engels Institute in Moscow were driven out of Germany, and they landed at Princeton and Columbia and Brandeis University and UCal Berkeley. And they began to agitate for these Marxist ideas, turning kids' heads around with strange ideas, and we see the product of that in the streets today, with confused kids in the street who sometimes don't even know what their gender is. And so all of that has had a tremendous run, but there's a function of history that's been identified by a brilliant historian named Jacques Barzun, who wrote a book called From Dawn to Decadence, 500 Years of Western Cultural Life, which was basically taking a look at the Western tradition from the flowering of the Renaissance in 1500 all the way through to 2000 when he published. And what he found in his voluminous and comprehensive treatment of the Western tradition is that every 50 years, people react to what happened in the previous half century. So that's why, Travis, all of these Marxist people are out there kind of banging their drums and doing everything that they can to try to shut down President Trump and this resurgence of liberty, because they realize this is their last gasp. And so your instinct on this of going right into the wheelhouse of cultural Marxism here in California to take the state back is right on point. And really, that's what's going to happen. So these conversations that we're having among our peers in the Second Amendment community, like we visited with today, among our neighbors in the congregations of our churches, these conversations will add upon themselves and become a great wave of liberty that will ultimately crest and wash these Marxists from our shores. And we use the term Marxist on this broadcast because we realized long ago that people have been trapped by the Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, left-right narrative, and they don't realize, as an example in the case of the Democrat Party, that that party has long ago been co-opted by communists and Marxists. And, you're having to rub elbows with this stuff up in the state assembly day in and day out there. And I wonder, how is it that you try to, get things done having to deal with all that?
I got to tell you, for 6 years, I've been in the California legislature, and I have a 100% vote record. I am known as the most conservative guy in Sacramento. So I have a 100% vote record of never raising taxes. All of the taxpayer associations, from California taxpayers to Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association, they all give me 100%. National Federation of Independent Business Owners, which represents all the small businesses, of course, I get 100% there. I get 100% from, all of the pro-Second Amendment groups that are protecting our Second Amendment right, because Second Amendment is a right, not a privilege. And then you take a look at all of the other organizations. For instance, Planned Parenthood gives me a 0%. So you see exactly what I stand for. Yeah. But, the difficulty is that the California legislature has been co-opted. It has been entirely co-opted by the Democrat Party. Right now, it is the worst it has been for, a two-party vibrant system since the 1880s. Mm-hmm. The California Democrats control everything from all of the constitutional offices to two-thirds supermajorities in both houses of the legislature, right, which was broken lately only by the fact that 3 of their members have now left due to sexual harassment.
Yeah, well.
So, this is the problem, is that today's California Democrat Party no longer even represents California Democrats.
Right.
You've gone so far left, so far over the cliff. And I mean, it goes to, we can take a look at 3 laws, for instance. One was, you might have heard about the transgender bathroom bill,
right,
where little boys and little girls can start using the same restrooms. It's just a strange concept that really,
others.
that nobody really agrees with in California, but yet this is what the legislature has put on us. In the last year, they took the willing and knowing transmission of HIV/AIDS to another person is no longer a felony. Now it's simply a slap on the wrist misdemeanor. This is insanity. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then you go to just outright communism, and I don't use that word lightly, but I'll tell you, this is exactly what it looks like. 2 Democrat legislators, this is just last month, proposed a bill where and by the way, the 2 legislators are Kevin McCarty out of Sacramento and Phil Ting out of the Bay Area of San Francisco. They proposed a law that if you're a business owner in California and you have received a tax break, as we all have from the Trump administration, half of your tax savings due to that tax reform, they're going to confiscate and force them to send it to Sacramento to get this, fund social programs. I mean, it's out and out communism. There's no veil anymore. They're not even trying to hide their intentions. They believe in redistribution of income. They believe in punitive taxation. They believe in this out of control bureaucracy that plagues, entire continents like Europe. And somehow they have convinced others, mainly in the universities, that this is a better system of government than our constitutional republic, than our nation of laws, than, one nation founded under God, by the people, for the people, with the consent of the people. This is our country. But unfortunately, the California Democrats, they don't believe that any longer. And this is why the governor's race is so important. I will be running against a guy by the name of Gavin Newsom. He is the former mayor of San Francisco. San Francisco now has the dubious distinction of having more people leave it than any other city in the entire country. People are literally fleeing San Francisco. They have maps of human waste for the city, so you know which streets you can walk on that don't have human waste on the sidewalks. Yeah. There's hypodermic needles where little children are going to school, where they're walking to school. 22,000 intravenous drug users on the streets of San Francisco. The likelihood of you finding the culprit that broke into your car is 1.6%. So we have rampant crime. Mm-hmm. And it gets even worse. In July, they just announced, this is still illegal under state law and under federal law, but it's not enough that they're a sanctuary city. Now they just announced in July they're going to open up 2 heroin injection centers in the city of San Francisco. And I will just simply tell you, there is no Californian that wants a legalized heroin injection center in their neighborhood. This is the future of the California Democrat Party, and this is why we're fighting back. We're fighting for the silent supermajority of Californians that truly just believe in common sense. And I'll tell you right now, that is why we're going to win.
I believe so. I believe it's turning, and it's all going to come to pass. And I think the thing that's going to accelerate this, Travis, is because there are many thousands of sealed indictments that are in the Federal Department of Justice right now that are awaiting prosecution. And that's going to be everything from MS-13 people on up to high treason and sedition in our country. And we've seen plenty of that. And one of our peaks behind the veil, if you will, is the memo that came out that President Trump declassified on the 2nd of February from the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence that was prepared for the majority members, which chapter and verse details just systemic corruption in the Obama administration, the departments of his executive branch, including the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Democrat National Committee, Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. It was rampant corruption as they tried to hang this Russian collusion thing as a canard on President Trump. And in effect, they committed the same sin that Marxists always do, which is projection. In other words, accusing the other guy of what you yourself are guilty of. When we look at Hillary Clinton having signed off on the Uranium One mining deal, after the Clinton-Juster Foundation in Canada receives tens of millions of dollars from Russian oligarchs, which are then bundled and sent down to the Clinton Foundation in New York. This is international money laundering as an art form. So that's where we're at. And I think what's going to happen is President Trump, of course, has been moving pretty well on the chessboard here for the last year or so. And I think what we're going to see here in 2018 is these systemic themes of corruption are going to be coming front and center before the American people. And when that happens, folks who thought they were voting for the Democrat Party, voting for the working man like Dad and Grandpa did, they'll realize that the Democrat Party has left them long ago, and they'll start voting their values. And when people start voting their values in America, which everybody has, which is conservative, family, hardworking, faith-based, when people vote those values, this country is going to turn on a dime and go liberty all the way.
Amen to that. And let's talk about, indictments for just a moment. So many of your listeners may have seen me on Tucker Carlson on Fox News. A number of months ago, I was on Tucker, and I said very simply, California has been declared an illegal sanctuary state by Jerry Brown. And let me define what sanctuary state means. This is people who are here in our state illegally that are committing crimes while they're here. They are now being defended and sheltered with taxpayer dollars. This is absolutely, completely wrong. There is not a Californian that thinks this is a good idea, that wants to actually shelter criminals in their communities. Yet Jerry Brown and the California Democrats have made this a law. But it gets worse because not only is this unconstitutional, it's criminal. And I stated on Tucker Carlson that we need Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General of the United States, and Donald Trump to come to California and to sue California. I'm proud to report that just last week, Jeff Sessions did finally come to California.
Right.
And you better believe the United States is now suing the state of California. So that was a victory number one. And that was fantastic. And we're looking forward to that because in my first 100 days in office, I've already pledged to reverse the illegal sanctuary state. And I would love if Jeff Sessions beat me to the punch and he does it sooner, because the sooner we can get that done, the safer California is going to be. But it gets worse because, you see, because the feds waited so long to come to California and sue California, you know, these things spread. They spread actually like a virus. And the next step was Javier Becerra, the criminal attorney general of California. He's a Democrat, appointed by Jerry Brown, never run for office. He was appointed when Kamala Harris, the Democrat, went to Senate for California. He now, a few weeks ago, said that any California business owner that helps out federal immigration authorities doing their constitutional duty will now be prosecuted under California law. So he literally threatened Californians with prosecution for simply following federal law. This is textbook criminal obstruction of justice. So I went back on Fox News and I called for his arrest and prosecution. But it gets worse because, you see, it's like one bad apple. It spreads. And if you don't correct the problem, if you don't fix that virus, it spreads, and it has spread. Just a week and a half ago, Libby Schaaf, the Democrat mayor of a city called Oakland in the Bay Area, tipped off over 800 criminals who are here in our state illegally that the federal immigration authorities were coming.
Yeah, it's monstrous. This whole, you know.
It's criminal. I mean, we are talking now aiding and abetting criminals. It's a felony. Because of her tip-off, they were only able to apprehend 130 criminals, which means over 600 criminals who shouldn't even be in the state in the first place, that are committing crimes while they're here in California, are now roaming the streets of California because Libby Schaaf has committed a felony of aiding and abetting criminals. And now Gavin Newsom, the one that I am running against to be the next governor of the state of California, is now openly encouraging other Democrat elected leaders throughout the state to openly violate federal law. This is the problem. It's that if you do not fix the problem only gets worse. And we already know that these are laws in the United States. We know that these laws must be followed. It is contingent upon Washington, D.C. to make sure that they do their job and defend our Constitution, and is absolutely dependent upon every single one of us as Californians to stand up and to fight and to not accept this. Because remember, it is a government of the people, by the consent of the people. And I will tell you right now, the California Democrat Party no longer has the consent of the California people to break these laws. And that's why I'm going to be the next governor of California.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head, Travis. It really is down to the people to come and seize their government back. And they do that first at the ballot box here in the primary in California and around the country. And then, of course, in the November election for the midterm. And certainly this is the most important midterm election in our nation's history. And we've seen, as you say, from President Trump, this wonderful turning in history that has made it all possible. And it really is to each of us now to take purchase or to grab hold and to do what we can to make it happen. And
let me follow on that thought. This governor's race in California is the most important race we're going to see across the country in November. And I will tell you that right now.
Sure.
This race will be the hottest race in the country. Remember, I said it right here on KPRZ, and I said it here first. And here's why. The governor's seat in California is a 4-year position that turns into an 8-year position. In 8 years, one Republican as governor, Travis Allen, I will tell you right now, turns this blue state red and changes the election map in the United States for a generation. This is the key to the White House. It goes right through California.
Right. 55 elector votes in California. That's the big dog barking.
You named it. You nailed it right there. And that is why this election is so important. One election changes everything in the entire country for a generation. That's the California governor's race. And that's exactly why I'm running. And that is why we will win.
Right. And we talked about Trump's, $8 trillion added to the market in value here just in 1 year alone. We started adding value to the markets even before he took office on the coattails of the election, if you
Absolutely.
will.
Absolutely.
And so this thing is just bursting at the seams waiting to come out. We saw the harbinger of this liberty wave happen there on the 23rd of June in 2016 when the British people across the Atlantic decided they were going to jump up and seize their sovereignty and take their sovereignty back from kind of the globalist upstreaming European Union that isn't elected, doesn't represent anybody in England, and told them they couldn't even fish in their own waters.
Right. Do you want the United States run out of Brussels or out of Belgium?
Yeah. I
don't think so.
No. Yeah. So we jumped up again as in echo to that. I remember Trump was overseas in Scotland at his resort there and was making comments after the Brexit vote and was very encouraging. And then on the 8th of November, we had our exit, if you will, from that whole globalist upstreaming model, and so we've got a real opportunity here. And with your race, which is, as you say, so pivotal, there is a moment here where we grab history and kind of get on to the next chapter. And with President Trump's tax cut, that is going to cause potentially a century of American prosperity if we can win out in this midterm election and support him with further reduction of regulation, further enforcement, if you will, cleaning out government, draining the swamp, getting California back online. It's just going to be a wonderful occasion, but folks are going to have to go out there and engage and make sure the neighbors are with them.
That's exactly right. And again, before we go to break, if you like what you're hearing right now, find me on Facebook at Join Travis Allen. If you don't have Facebook or social media, go to my website. It's at jointravisallen.com. There's a reason we have more volunteers across the state of California, 39,000 volunteers so far. It's because ordinary Californians are sick and tired of being the laughingstock of the nation. We're sick and tired of being overtaxed, overregulated, and taken for granted by the California Democrat Party. This is the beginning of the new California. And the new California will once again be the greatest state in the nation. And that's what's at stake. And that is why not only we have to win, that's why we will win.
All right, we'll pick it up on the other side, Travis. Great vision. Folks, we'll be right back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to What's Right, What's Left with Radio Pastor Ernie Sanders. I'm Double X, sitting in for Pastor Sanders this evening. It's my great privilege to be here in the studios of KPRZ, high atop the tower here in La Jolla, California, beautiful La Jolla, California, with perhaps the next governor of the state of California, Travis Allen, who really has his goggles on and truly understands the landscape here in California as we try to push back against this 5, 6, 7 decades now worth of adding up cultural Marxism that's gone on. During the break, Travis and I were talking about a few things, and really it is about the words, and it's about the words, how they matter. And folks, I don't know if you've paid attention to this little wrinkle, but you'll never see a Democrat, particularly a Democrat in the federal legislature, a senator, a congressman, a candidate for president, you'll never see a Democrat refer to the Republic of the United States of America. They'll always refer to democracy. Well, Athens learned in ancient Greece that just doesn't work, because the minute 51% of the people find that they can vote politicians in that will give them things, then pretty soon you're on a slippery slope and people don't produce anymore. And then there's more stuff given away, and pretty soon there's nothing created and nobody has anything, and so you end up with empty shelves, and you end up with eating your dogs and cats, as people are doing in Venezuela now. And then you end up in terrible atrocities, as we've seen in these communist collectivist countries, where the wheels ultimately come off, and the people who stand up and want to have liberty in their lives end up being excised and purged. So I know, Travis, that you've got a keen ear for language, and particularly having to stand across the aisle from your Democrat colleagues, quote unquote. Tell us how that is to try to match words with them as you try to press through to a liberty again in California.
So, I think we start out by saying very simply that words matter. And, this is a fun thing. I'm a big Trump supporter, and I wrote op-eds in favor of Trump going back to May of 2016, and I wrote an op-ed for a local paper called the Orange County Register, which said very, very simply, it's time for Republicans to unify behind Trump, because it was clear that there was only two choices. There was only, crooked Hillary or Donald Trump. You either believed in the rule of law or the slide to socialism. You either believed in a constitutional republic or, ruling by the elite. And so this was a very simple thing, but, there's a lot of people that had a lot of problems with Trump. They had problems with the things he said, or some of the things he may or may not have done. But the interesting thing is many of these people started to come around. And one of the things that I hear most often from people, just, normal people on the street, is that since Trump was elected, politically correct speech has become a lot less necessary. And, it was kind of a very slow, gradual creep. It certainly didn't exist when I was younger. But over the last decade or so, it became this thing where if you weren't, speaking from the list of approved words or talking about certain subjects in an approved manner, that, you were guilty of all sorts of social taboos. And the answer is that we have the First Amendment for a reason. This is the ability of people to speak their mind and tell the truth and tell it in an unvarnished fashion. And, you were talking about, my race and my run to be the next governor of the state of California and why it's been so successful and why we have such a massive grassroots following from across the state. And the answer is very simple, because we are talking about things that matter to ordinary Californians in plain English, using basic terms that everybody understands. And this is today's California. We have gotten to a place now where the California Democrat Party has literally driven us off the cliff. And they are trying to convince Californians that somehow socialism is the right way to go, and somehow more taxes and, this confiscatory policy of the California government, the excessive regulations, and this, beginning to be a lawless society with all of their soft on crime laws is somehow better for their daily lives. But it all started with controlling speech. And this is the beauty of Donald Trump's election, is now across the country, you're seeing a new breed of elected officials that no longer feel constrained by politically correct speech. And they now have the freedom to speak the unvarnished truth to the people of this country. And I will tell you right now, our success in California is very simply telling the truth to Californians in words that everyone understands.
Right.
And I'll give you the prime example of this. I'm the only candidate in the race for governor that actually has a 5-point plan to fix California, to make California once again the greatest state in the nation. And I'll run them off very quickly for you.
Sure.
Number one, cut taxes in California.
Absolutely. That's always the first step.
Absolutely.
You've got to free up the people's wealth for them to create wealth.
Simply put, you put more money on somebody's table, you're talking about families that are staying together, kids that are going to better schools, better nutrition, better everything.
Yeah.
Life gets better. And we've seen this across the country with the Trump tax cut.
Sure.
So number one is to cut taxes in California. Number two is to get tough on crime. California used to be the state of 3 strikes. Because of the soft on crime policies of the California Democrats, they passed 3 laws that were basically felonies turning into misdemeanors and criminals being let out of jail early. To give an example, a week and a half ago, a judge ruled that over 10,000 sex offenders in California are going to be released early from jail. This is wrong, and it's because of 3 laws: AB 109, Prop 57, and Prop 47, championed by Jerry Brown, the California Democrat Party, and Gavin Newsom. All these 3 must be repealed. So it's cut taxes, get tough on crime, fix our roads, and expand our freeways. We have the 2nd worst roads in the nation with the nation's worst traffic. Simply put, we have to fix our roads. We got to get out of this terrible traffic we have to live in California, but we don't need to raise taxes to do it because California already has plenty of money. The next point is fix our broken education system. Our kids used to be in the best schools in the nation. They're now 46th and 47th in reading and math. Only 30% of our 9th graders are expected to finish a 4-year college degree. And the last point is very simple. Complete the California State Water Project. If you're anywhere in the country, you know that California goes through these persistent droughts every decade, and they're terrible. The problem is there's a very simple solution. You build water storage up and down the state of California, above ground and below ground. There's more than enough water in California. We don't store it when it rains because the Democrats that run the California legislature have not built any new water storage of any significance for decades.
Well, and this is deliberate.
Of course it is, because Jerry Brown and the California Democrats believe in scarcity. Right. With scarcity, the government can control things, and the people need the government. It's exactly right. It's control and money.
Yeah.
And so you take a look at the 5-point plan. Cut taxes, get tough on crime, fix our roads, expand our freeways, fix our broken education system, and complete our state water project. And oh, by the way, in the first 100 days, reverse the illegal sanctuary state. These are concepts that every Californian, regardless of political affiliation, whether you're Republican or Democrat, decline state, whether you're a man or woman, rich or poor, any part of the state you live in, whatever ethnicity you are, everybody agrees with these ideas at 60 to 80% levels because they are just common sense.
Sure.
And this is how we win. We start out talking about political speech, and I will tell you for too long, Californians, and frankly everyone around the country, has had to listen to politicians talking out of both sides of their mouth that have no track record of success, which will say one thing and then do the exact opposite. it's about time that we get people like our president, who came into office with some very simple promises and is delivering on those promises.
Absolutely.
Just today, we were in California, and we watched as Donald Trump came to California to go visit the future of our secure border. He was looking at those wall prototypes. This is a man that believes in delivering on promises. We already got the tax cut. We're now going to have secure borders. We're going to enforce federal immigration law. This is what the people of the country deserve. This is a nation based on laws. It's why it's the greatest state and the greatest country in the entire nation. It starts with our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, and you better believe it starts with that First Amendment that is protected by the Second.
Yeah, and you know, you lead me and inspire me, Travis, to kind of revisit our heritage, and I think about George Washington's farewell address to the people of the United States, which really is my political compass. Folks don't know about this document, but this thing is really what was intended by the framers to be the roadmap for the future. And there's one key and important excerpt from it that I'll share that many of the experienced listeners and longtime listeners on the broadcast will be familiar with. But Washington wrote at the end of his second term in September of 1796 that of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports.
Amen to that.
Yeah. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness. Now, think about the Democrats in California for a minute. That's all they're about, is subverting that. And so that's why we are where we are today in California. You know?
Listen, you know, it's shocking and it's wrong. You know, we have to understand that all authority is ultimately based on a higher authority.
Right.
I mean, very simply, if you have elected leaders that don't believe in God, they don't believe in a higher power, who are they ultimately answerable to?
Right.
This is the key. This is why faith is so extremely important. It's always been important, and it's vastly more important today than it ever has been at any other time. You know, with all of the various distractions we have in the world, the bottom line is that people need to know that their elected leaders are men of faith, men that believe that they're answering to a higher power, which means that this is not simply about the attainment of some political office. This is truly about making life better for everyone, you know, across state. And I listen.
Servant leaders.
Absolutely. Look, I've lived in California my entire life. I've had to watch my parents, family, and friends have all left the state. There's 39 million people here in California. 1 in 5 of them lives below poverty. We have the nation's highest homeless population in this state. We have rising violent crime. I will tell you right now that a Republican governor in California that believes in the rule of law makes every single Californian better. It makes every single Californian safer. It puts more food on their table, more money in their pockets. It gives them more freedom. It allows more families to stay together because they don't have to worry about, you know, where the rent payment or where the mortgage payment is coming to because the economy is doing so well. Right. It means that men and women are safe to walk down the streets of any city in California day or night, and they don't got to step over homeless people or worry that they can't protect themselves. This is what this is all about. It is a nation of laws founded upon laws. It is one nation under God. And I will tell you right now, that is the great success of the United States. And when I am the governor of the state of California, everyone will be absolutely certain to remember that we are a part of the greatest nation in the world for a very simple reason.
Right. And simply because of that. And we talked earlier today as we chatted, Travis, about the Black Robe Regiment. And folks who are joining the broadcast for the first time, they'll be interested to know that the Declaration of Independence, which talked about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is the document that made set the bow wave, if you will, for us to be able to have the pause in history to create the U.S. Constitution, which is that grand document that makes all things possible, not because it gives us rights, but because it memorializes the rights that our Creator gave to us in our creation. We have the right to bear arms to protect ourselves. We have the right not to be searched without probable cause. We have the right to speak freely. We have the right to have freedom of assembly. We have the right to practice our Christian faith. All of this was available to us from the Creator. Well, so where all that ethic came from then, as we pressed through the 17th century into the 18th century, was a Christian clergyman on this continent. One man named John Wise was a reverend in Ipswich, Massachusetts, And in the late 1600s and early 1700s, he was talking specifically about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So some 6-7 decades later, that made it into the Declaration of Independence when Thomas Jefferson wrote that up. And the Black Robe Regiment referred to the idea that these clergymen who wore black robes on Sunday when they ascended to the pulpit to speak to their congregations effectively became the political force in the colonies that led to ultimate revolution against the tyranny of the crown. So from the very beginning, this republic was founded on a Christian ethos, which can best be summed up as Matthew 7:12, do unto others as you wish done unto you. And in a people, with a people who are sovereign in a government of popular character, it really won't work unless we do unto others as we wish done unto ourselves. And that's where the Marxists have the wheels come off. That's where the communists, the Democrats now, basically, that's where the wheels come off, because they don't want people to do unto them what they're doing unto others, And interestingly enough, we have Orleen Kurla, who is president of the California Eagle Forum. She's put a document up on her website, which is eagleforumofcalifornia.org, and it's a pamphlet that was published in 1962 called California Dynasty of Communism. And on the cover of this pamphlet, there's a picture of Jerry Brown's dad, Edmund Pat Brown, who was governor at the time, arm in arm with his communist colleagues who were labor organizers at the time, a gentleman named Benny Bufano and another fellow named Harry Bridges. Folks, if you go to eagleforumofcalifornia.org and take a look at the California Dynasty of Communism, you'll see that this thing actually was planned decades ago. And through the Democrat Party, they wanted to turn California into a Soviet-style state. Well, the cat's out of the bag now, and people understand that what's in play. This Marxist trend has run its course, and it's only up to us then to accelerate the rise in liberty here by these kinds of conversations among ourselves and in our communities.
Amen to that. And for all the listeners out there, what you need to understand is that you truly can fight, and you can only win if you do fight. And when you fight, you must fight to win. Directly to your point, over half of the founding fathers went to Christian seminaries, right? They were church elders, they were pastors, they were men of faith. And to give you an idea, the California Democrat Party, in terms of how far it has gone, it recently, in its most recent meeting they just did a couple weeks ago, they now are opposing bills to penalize boycotts of Israel. So they're even taking out support of the very democracy that is the shining light of the Middle East, the cradle of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And this is how far the California Democrat Party's gone, and this is why they truly have lost their way and actually don't even represent the average California Democrat any longer.
Right.
These are where our voters are coming from. I'll give you a fun anecdote. In 2014, Jerry Brown was elected governor in California with 4.3 million votes. In 2016, Donald Trump just got 4.4 million votes in California. Literally, all we have to do is turn out the Trump voters,
right,
and Travis Allen will be the next governor of the state of California. And this is why it's so important. These are the stakes that are at hand. You were just mentioning, the California dynasty of communism and the roots of, today's Marxist Democrat Party, right, that has gone so far into this socialist communist realm. It didn't start today. It started decades ago. This is simply the fruition of decades of planning of Saul Alinsky, right, and all of his followers. Yep. And the problem is it has disastrous consequences. I know we have a lot of listeners listening to us from around the country. Take a look at the city of Detroit. This used to be the fourth best city in the United States. Motor City was
Motor City.
It was incredible.
I grew up there, and when I grew up there, Travis, it was a burgeoning, thriving, going concern.
That's right.
And then Coleman Young was elected, and the whole Democrat trajectory started to happen, and it just went, the wheels came off the Motor City. 6
decades of Democrats running Detroit with not a Republican in sight. 6 decades of Democrats ruined the fourth greatest city in the United States. And now, as you well know, it's a sinking black hole.
Yeah.
This is what California is turning into. We have had almost 4 decades uninterrupted of Democrat control of the legislature, and Jerry Brown and his family controlling California from the governor's seat for 24 of the last 50 years. This is what they're doing to our state. I mean, look, it's biblical. You're going to know a tree by its fruits.
Right.
If everything was great, then California would not lead the nation in poverty. It wouldn't lead the nation in homelessness. It would not have this immense rising crime rate. More people are leaving California than are now coming in. In the last 7 years, we had 243,000 Californians leave on balance, so more left than came in, taking $8 billion with them. California's problems are very simple. They're traceable back to the California Democrat Party. This is why this election is so important. We saw it across the country. You remember Obama talking about leading from behind. Well, now we finally have a president who believes by leading in the front.
Sure.
And he believes in American exceptionalism and American greatness.
That's the Western tradition. Lead from the front.
Amen to that.
Leadership by example.
Look, David was not called to stay in the sheepfolds, right? He was not called to say, stay with the baggage. Instead, he said, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that dares challenge the living armies of God, right?
Right.
And he takes his little sling with a stone and he knocks this guy down. When he knocks out Goliath, he takes Goliath's own sword and chops off his head with his own sword. Right. It is the ultimate insult. But remember, this is leadership. That's why he was the first true king of Israel. Saul was demoted from before him. And this is what it takes. It takes leadership. But it doesn't take leadership from behind. It takes someone taking on the people in this world that are doing so much bad. In today's California, it's the California Democrat Party that has run the state into the ground. And we don't take them on with, kid gloves, and we don't take them on indirectly. We march straight at them. We tell the people of California the truth about everything that's going on in California and who is responsible. And we tell Californians very simply, if you want to take your state back, there is one election that changes everything. There is one person that changes everything. His name is Travis Allen. That's me. You can find me online at Join Travis Allen. Go to Facebook. I'm right there to Join Travis Allen. It's jointravisallen.com. If you're around the country and hearing this message, follow me online. Like the page. You'll get all of the updates. But if this truly moves you in your heart, wherever you are in California, the United States, go online to jointravisallen.com and donate today. Yeah. I will tell you right now that the California Democrat Party will have unlimited resources to try to take this governor's seat from the rest of the country. Gavin Newsom already has $19 million. We need bullets in the guns to fight, because this is our state, and this is what we're going to take back. So if you've heard the message, if you believe in the message, and you actually believe that California will once again be a Republican state, and this nation will once again be the greatest nation in the world, help me with this race. Go to jointravisallen.com right now on your computer. Go on right now. Donate. Follow me. And I will tell you right now, this will be the most exciting race in the nation come June, come November. And right as soon as we see those election results, right after election night in November, California's going to have a brand new Republican. He's going to be a governor, and his name's going to be Travis Allen.
And Travis, then Liberty starts to roll back, and you touched on armament and bearing arms and Goliath's sword, and David being able to use that, and I think about our Second Amendment adventures today as we enjoyed a little bit of sporting shooting, and I realize that that's one of the things that the Marxists are doing in California at quick step, if you will. It's getting to the point where you can't even buy ammunition to go out and do some clay target shooting.
It's insane, and this is the agenda of the California Democrat Party. And as we can see through Washington, it's the agenda of the Democrat Party across the country. It's to disarm the American people, and they use every excuse to do it. I mean, we had this horrible tragedy in Florida where a troubled teen who had been visited by deputies 39 times in his home. The FBI was aware that this kid was clearly unbalanced, yet they didn't do anything. This is the problem. The problem is not law-abiding citizens having the ability to defend themselves, defend their property, defend themselves from anybody that might try to visit them harm.
And in the aggregate, defend themselves from a tyrannical government.
Amen to that.
Of Democrat Marxists.
Amen to that,
like
right?
Hillary Clinton might have,
But they use every opportunity on the left to try to strip away our Second Amendment rights. And remember, the Second Amendment is a right. It is not a privilege. This is why just last month I wrote legislation to make California a shall-issue CCW state. Yeah. Because you shouldn't have to justify, as long as you're not a criminal, why you need the ability to defend yourself, whether it's your home or walking down any street, day or night, any place in the state of California. Yeah. This is why the Second Amendment is so important, because the Second Amendment protects the First and protects all of the others.
Yeah, without the Second Amendment, it all goes away. We had Trevor Loudon on the broadcast. I think he might have been down at the wall today, as a matter of fact, but we had him on the broadcast some year ago, in March of last year, as a matter of fact. And I asked Trevor, coming from New Zealand, what did he think about the American Second Amendment? And he said that liberty still exists in this world today because in America we have a Second Amendment that keeps our government at bay.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Amen to that. And, look, today with the proliferation of the internet and smart devices and, cameras everywhere you look, and an NSA that is using these, FISA courts and all of these, hidden courts with this,
Sure.
hidden laws, it's more important than ever that people wake up and understand that this is your government, this is your state, this is your country. You have to take it back, though, because if the good people of the world don't fight, the bad guys in the world are always waiting at the door, and they always gravitate to power. This is why we see cities like, Rahm Emanuel's Chicago, which used
Sure.
to be Chicago, Daily Chicago. And, it used to be Tammany Hall, the corrupt Democrat political machine in New York. Well, now it's run by Bill de Blasio.
Right.
And on the West Coast, it is San Francisco. Every single one of the major statewide Democrat leaders comes from the Bay Area of San Francisco. This is their stronghold. This is why they must be taken on directly. They must be beaten directly. This is what ushers in the prosperity in the state and in this country. In the state alone, 39 million Californians are depending on the good people of California to stand up and fight. This is why we talk about the evangelical community. You got to get out there and you got to vote.
Yeah, if you mobilize the evangelicals, this is a done deal.
It's a done deal. And remember, especially if you're a person of faith that's listening to this, you got that book up on the shelf. It's called the Bible, right? This is not an empty relic.
Right.
This is not simply a morality document. This is a political document that says this earth we have a responsibility for. We have a responsibility to do what's right, not only for yourself, but for your fellow man. It's just like, being a part of your local PTA or your neighborhood watch. Once the good people of the neighborhood or that school district stop paying attention, the bad people come in.
Absolutely.
And once they come in like a virus, they come in like a plague, and they ruin everything in their wake. I will tell you right now, it's about time we clean house in California. It's time we drain the swamp. It is time we take our state back. This is the message that has caught fire throughout the entire state of California. This is what we bring to California. Finally, we have dynamism. Finally, we have action. Finally, we have someone and an entire movement that is willing to fight to take back our state for the good people of California. And I'll tell you right now, when we win in California, every single American wins.
Well,
and that's what we're going to do.
Well, Travis, liberty's on the rise in America and in California, and courage is contagious. And if we start talking this talk and walking this walk in the street, and our neighbors do the same, it adds up pretty quick. And there's a liberty wave rising, and I think that this liberty wave will ultimately wash the cultural Marxists out of California, which, as you correctly observe, will usher in a century of American prosperity. Folks, we'll be right back. We've had a wonderful visit with Travis Allen, Republican candidate for governor. Thank you very much for your leadership, Travis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.